Internet.
Hey, Internet.
How's it going, Internet?
Still can't answer you, Dale.
Got a very special guest with us today, Mr.
We
Jayme
do.
McDonald.
Hey.
Jayme McDonald, a.k.a. MD, a.k.a. Boomsday, a.k.a. Chatterless.
Too many
AKA
aliases.
I'm
just a fella, you know?
You're a man of many talents. Thanks
a
for
regular
joining
guy.
us, Jamie.
Hey,
Yeah.
man.
How's it
Hold on,
going?
I'm trying to
bud?
share this stream right now. Sorry, I'm not looking up. That's not very...
Oh, that's fine.
I'm trying to
It's
share.
fine.
me and-
Great. This is good podcasting.
You'll see me and Derek typing as we're talking, but you can tell when we're doing it because we have like a super concentration face and we like bite our lip.
Yeah,
So
we're
you're-
also usually researching things on the fly because we have no
Yeah.
fucking idea what we're talking about. So
Oh, I see.
You're covered. Yeah, because we usually go on tangents and just end up somewhere where we hadn't planned on going anyway.
That's the joy of going live, eh, boys?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the post game. Like,
It's kind of a rush because it's like if you F up, there's no recovery. It's just awkward.
are we not saying fuck now?
Yeah, what
Are
are
we
you-
censoring ourselves?
censoring yourself? What the-
What?
Sure. No.
F up? Dale. Hey, well, Jamie's doing that. Dale, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Did I tell you about the time my mom came to watch us live stream? And she told me, she's like, oh, I was going to watch you live stream, but you swore too much. So I had to leave. And I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that was my mom, like episode 1 of the podcast. And then also the podcast I made with my 4-year-old son. She was
Yeah.
like, there's too much swearing.
Sundays with Noah, you're just like swearing at your 6-year-old. Is he 6 still? Or did he get older?
He is.
Okay. See, look at that. Uncle points.
So that's how aging works. You do get older, but he is still, the numerical value assigned to his age is still 6. All right, I see Jamie shared the post. Dale, let's kick it off with you. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm enjoying myself. Well, I don't know, like in terms to dealing with COVID, dealing with the world burning down, dealing with trying to cancel everything that has police officers in it, or because I'm pretty good at everything, but I'm a little bit miffed they want to cancel Paw Patrol. I feel like that's a bit too far.
Nobody with children is upset, and we can discuss this later in the show, but nobody with a child would shed a tear if Paw Patrol was just like fucking eradicated from the earth. Like, I am so sick of that show. I don't care why they cancel it, just cancel it.
Doesn't that just mean you'll have to watch more YouTube stories about the hacker guys?
Yeah, true. I mean, everything my son watches is obnoxious. Only last Friday night, I put on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or maybe it was TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Yeah.
And he got big into that.
Oh, nice.
So
One of the best.
the classics, they never go out of style.
Dude, what about the Michael Bay reboots of the Ninja Turtles?
Come
No.
on, what are we talking
Fuck
about?
out of here. What are you?
Dude, they got Bebop and Rocksteady.
Hey, Jamie, you want to be co-host on a podcast with me?
Bebop and Rocksteady.
This guy's fucking out of here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I have enough experience to be a part of this podcast.
We should
Yeah, so
actually-
why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your illustrious history as an entertainer?
Yeah, let's let the guests speak instead of us talking about ourselves for 20 minutes.
You guys are gracious as hell to even
Yeah.
set me up like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like in a fit of mania, I decided, let's go host a podcast and produce a bunch of projects and then score a bunch of video game scores and then work on television music and all that stuff at the exact same time. And then
That's kind of like what I did, except for I just did only the podcast part.
One
yeah,
single podcast.
So
Yeah.
for like all that, and then like also like making original music for like myself and performing live and supporting others and producing and DJing and having all that all at the same time. And
Nice.
then also like hitting a wall and just realizing that, hey, I've been redlining it for like so long and I've just been burying the needle into the ground with just so many things going on that I just kind of put a pause on everything for a little bit.
Mhm.
Took some time to like figure out what's going on with myself and got some very much needed mental health assistance. And I
good.
stopped the podcast. So Intergalactic Interviews ended at 175 episodes. The award-winning Intergalactic Interviews.
Oh, what award did you guys win?
Oh, just second place in a little contest from the West Ender. I don't know if you've ever heard of a publication.
Oh,
but
Oh,
second overall in Vancouver. And now some of you might think like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like a winning podcast. That's second. Well, the first place, you know, was an almighty podcast that's been around here forever called Stop Podcasting Yourself.
Oh, the Graham Clark one.
And as many people have told me, coming second to that is like coming in first anyway. So that's fine. They're the best.
because Graham's
Because no one's going to topple them from,
Yeah.
like,
And
they're
I
going to be
don't
number
want
one
to.
forever,
Yeah,
right?
I would
he's like a
feel weird.
legit celebrity too.
Yeah.
So there's
You-
no shame in losing to him.
Hey, if you lose, like, I don't know, but like if you win at a second place, that's how you feel good. That's
Yeah.
Do you know that there's actually, so there was a psychological study done, and they found that like second place finishers felt shittier than if they hadn't placed at all. Like first place, you feel fucking great because you won. Second place, you feel shittier than because you came that close to like actually being the best, but weren't the best. And then third place, you're fucking stoked because you have no business being there. And like that was someone who like never expected to place, and they ended up placing. So like second place is actually the most psychologically damaging position to be in.
I guess so, yeah. Because you're like, if
hot
I
take.
would have pushed a little bit harder, I would have made it.
Yeah. Also,
If only my beard were as big as Graham Clark's, I could have been the number one podcaster.
so we've already identified why I had to stop the podcast, because that was what their intention was. They said stop podcasting yourself, so I did. I stopped right away. That was the first thing I
Took
did.
it literally.
Second. And then the next thing I did was like my beard, as Derek identified, wasn't big enough at the time. It used to be like this, like down here. But now, you know, much like a lot of people that have had like late night, you know, maybe a late night show or a podcast, radio, anything like that. When they go away, oftentimes they go away and they live in the woods or something and they grow a beard. Like, well, here I have this massive beard all of a sudden. And I'm like, all right, this is just the life I live now. This is
I think you should take another shot at Graham Clark with that beard, because that might be the edge you needed. Like
Maybe
that was all.
let's submit this episode, and maybe we can win an award off of Jamie's back. Just because he has.
Definitely okay with just floating in on Jamie's coattails. And we'll even let you have the award. We'll just take all the money that's involved.
No, I'm going to take the award. There's no money in podcasting awards.
Okay, you can have the money. I'll take the reward. Or no, wait, you take the reward you take the trophy, and I'll take the money. There has to be money.
So, Jamie, what are you up to these days?
Guys, I'm having a really great time.
Instead of letting Dale continue that bit for the next 8 to 10 minutes, let's
it's okay.
I think we go with that.
Can we talk about, so you recently scored Dosed, which is a very popular movie examining, what is it, like psychotropics, the effect of them, like
something like basically the synopsis I give, that like the elevator pitch, so to speak, which works better than my small speak, whatever, is basically there's this woman actually here in Vancouver, and she had a serious addiction to opiates, like a lot of people do, but this particular person was like high register, like incredibly, it was crazy. So the documentary follows her pursuit of using alternative medicine and basically trying out, these different techniques, and a very strong portion of which includes psilocybin, which is the hallucinogenic property.
Oh, I'm familiar, friend. Trust me.
With mushrooms.
I'm not. What drug is this again? Where can you find this?
Yeah.
Psilocybin? Is that what you said?
So that was from my mom that was just listening, so she knows exactly what I've been doing.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what that is. And then it's not very linear in terms of like, it's not a straight rise or something. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. The good thing is that it's been selling out, worldwide for over a year in private festivals, and that it's actually garnering awards. Seems every single time it goes, it's either the audience participation award, like so the fan favorite one, or like it gets a lot of love, it seems, everywhere it goes. And I get messages from all types of people, and I was very fortunate to work on it. But yeah, I composed music for it, and it was super fun. And I hope everyone gets a chance to see it, because it'll change your mind, I think, on stuff.
So where can people go to see this?
Right now, what I would recommend you do is to check out, they have a very active Instagram profile. You can also go check out the website itself, dosedmovie.com. I think I was pushing people towards the film, and that's the wrong one, but I just want to make sure right now. But Dosed is if you just type Dosed movie, it's the highest ranking thing in Google for a reason. So if you check it out, you go to dosedmovie.com. I think right now, because of COVID and everything, like literally as it was going up until the shutdown and quarantine of the world, basically, it was like all around the world, like I think it was on simultaneously, like multiple different continents at one point being streamed. So I think you can actually rent it now in-house, so you can watch it from home, nice. Which is great. But I'm sure the big idea is to get distribution and have as many eyes and ears on it as possible. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because I'm active in a bunch of recovery communities, and this movie keeps coming up, and like a lot of people are starting to pay attention. I think on the back of this movie to hallucinogenics is like for therapeutic use and to help people kick addictions as well. So there's a lot of science coming out about it, which is it's exciting to see.
I think it's exciting what you're doing with your life, man. I think like the amount of turnaround in terms of like what you've done with your time and how you are becoming a community figure and leader and what you do and meetups. I think that's really inspiring, man, and it's really cool. And I get uncomfortable when I compliment people too long. So
I'm like, this feels weird. Thanks.
Don't worry. I get uncomfortable when you compliment Derek too much too.
It's like, Dale, you're still a piece of shit.
I'm like,
Dale,
it is good. I want to butt in and make a joke, but I'm like, yeah, this is all very nice and good. So I shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Don't ruin the moment. No, well, Jayme did know me in probably my train wreckiest days for sure. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that a lot.
Of course.
So, of course, all that shit got derailed again because of COVID. I think I tried holding like 2 or 3 like virtual sober meetups, and like nobody showed up. It was just like me hanging by myself on a Zoom chat.
Yeah, it turns out those are just called Zoom chats.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, they're not really meetups anymore.
All right. Do you guys want to get into the entire premise of this podcast, which is things that people are mad about, and no fucking shortage right now, at all.
I feel like even if society crumbles, people will still be mad online. Like you see all these protests. Like the weird thing was, we're like, whoa, what if society never recovers from COVID? And then it just dovetailed straight into everybody burning everything down. And then you're like, what if they actually stop society? And they're like, well, Twitter will still keep going, so people will still be complaining about stuff.
I just had I had this visual, like you just inspired me to think like the world's over. There's no humans left on Earth, but it's just like Russian bots arguing with each other on Twitter.
Dude, you gotta think like that is absolutely something that would happen. Like humanity is just wiped out, and these bots are going at it till the end of time.
What if they were always talking about that the moment the machines wake up and AI is launched? What if that happens and it's just different accounts arguing with each other on Twitter? They're like, oh, they're going to take over humankind and we're all going to be helpless. And then we just partition them onto the internet and then like just close off Twitter and then come back in 1,000 years and they've evolved into something else.
All right. Oh, I didn't mean to derail the topic. First topic that I wanted to dive into is Chaz, which is, I don't know if anyone's been watching the news, but anarchists have taken over a chunk of Seattle and are basically have established their own little.
That's a good way to get people sympathetic to their cause.
So I mean, it's like I know people who live there and it's working. Like
they live in Chaz.
Yeah.
Why did they name it Chaz?
It's a Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, but I hear that and all I can think about is fucking Chaz Bono. Yeah. That's literally all. So like not great on the branding front, but Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Like after the Seattle police abandoned the East Precinct, these people basically just like set up shop, and it's basically like a 24-hour street festival there now, which Dale, as the oldest suburban white man alive, disproves of. But like I know people who like they don't live on the street, they live in the area, and they're like, man, this is pretty dope. Like
how big is Chaz? Like
it's like 6 city blocks. Like imagine if someone just like cordoned off from like Seymour Street to fucking Dunsmuir and just like turn that into like a commune where police were not allowed to exist.
On one hand, I'm like, that's great. People need to take back their area and live how they want to be. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I feel like this is going to come back to bite them in the ass. Like it's just going to be some excuse for like Trump or even the Seattle mayor or like Washington's governor to be like, all right, now we have an excuse to go in and just fucking get even shittier.
So
I mean,
I was just going to say, like, it might just turn into an excuse to get the military involved.
Yeah, which definitely it seems like they're creating a vacuum of power, which will allow an overabundance of military use.
Mm-hmm.
I think already, though, the Seattle mayor, I believe she wrote a tweet responding to Trump's threatening tweet that said, you fix it or I'll fix it, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Whatever the fuck he said, yeah.
And her response was, we're all good. We got it. Go back to your bunker, which I thought was tremendous. I thought that was good.
That's good, but it's like poking like a drunk senile bear. Like, I'm not a fan of Trump, but he is the sitting president of the United States. And whether you think he's there like lawfully or whatever, or he should have got kicked out, impeached, it's like, I don't know. It's like, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, fuck everything up, anarchists, like, go burn it down. But on the other hand, I'm like, that's still the fucking president. And he is a joke, but he still does have all those secret buttons and call of the military and everything. Like,
they don't even have to be secret anymore. Like Trump could easily just be like, hey, military, go drop a couple nukes on Seattle. And Trump's base would be like, those libs were asking for it. And it wouldn't really make a fucking, like, this is the state of politics in the US now, is that nobody fucking cares as long as your side is winning. Like, if you're winning and your guy's in charge and calling the shots, it doesn't fucking matter what he does.
Oh, yeah, and it's like, before you're like, I don't know what my opinion is on this, you go on the internet and you're like, well, I'm a Republican. So you search up what your opinion on whatever's happening is supposed to be. And you're like, well, this is what I think about it. Like, I think another reason this is bad is because, like, this is just going to kind of sway things back to the Republicans, because it's like you have all these conservatives and being like, oh, these liberals are getting out of hand. These anarchists, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And then they just like make their own country, and then they're like, see?
I get what you're saying, because it serves as an example and a rallying point for those who may not otherwise be educated. And I understand what you're saying. I think, though, the larger implications for this gathering are the mass organization of people that are absolutely fed up with the current structure of society. I think the obvious holes that come to mind, I think, for anyone when you think of police being removed from a standard position like that is, who do you call when there's a rape? Who do you call for burglary? It's not necessarily about patrolling cops and the troubles that brings. It's more about like, who do you contact for these other things? So I'm sure that dispatchers, So I'm sure that dispatchers are being inundated with different precincts having to handle different calls. Meet me outside the Chaz zone and I'll listen to sexual assault type situations. So I don't know. That's just speculation. But I think that say if you look at the idea that like the Republicans could swoop in and take that position and you know have a reason to like, you know, overthrow the blue state of Washington. I would challenge you to think then what would happen. Let's say Austin, which is a very left-leaning city in a incredibly red state, so maybe the reddest state. If Austin suddenly became Chaz 2 and had this like completely autonomous community that's set up, would it have enough of an effect that it would actually rally other people into like destroying them, or would other communities start to be like, I think we could live like that too, and then have it proliferate that way? I think those are like the kind of weird questions that haven't been answered yet.
The thing about Austin is, doesn't Texas still have some weird thing in their, like their state's, I guess, rules where they joined but not as a state, so they can still, they're still kind of have this thing where they can separate anytime they want, because I don't know, something about
individual
when they joined,
cities or the entire state.
like the entire state of Texas can leave the USA if they want, because when they joined the union or whatever, they had some, I don't know, backup plan. I'd have to go research it, which I obviously didn't.
Do you want to Google it? We can sit here and watch you while you do that.
Okay.
Okay. So
Don't make
know
fun
that
of my effort face.
I know they tried, protesters, when they saw what had happened in Seattle, I know protesters in Portland tried doing the same thing. And I think they had it up for like 8 hours, and the cops were like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And, but I think you're right in that it's going to be an interesting experiment if it's allowed to continue, and it isn't just something that, like, you know, people are all fired up and like buying into the cause right now, but in like 2 or 3 weeks, I think it'll be interesting to see if like people, if it's still there, and how they're dealing with policing, and how they're dealing with like administration, versus if everyone just like gets bored and goes home. But I think it could definitely be a like you said, a rallying point for other people who are maybe, for me, it's kind of heartening, because I think it like takes us back to a time when we had like just like community-based everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like you didn't really care about shit on the national level. You didn't even care about shit on the state level. You had your little local community, and everyone supported each other, and everyone worked together. And now you have people who don't give a fuck about their local community, and they care only about like Washington and who's in charge there. And nobody gives a shit about what's happening locally to them. So yeah. I think if anything's gonna like break us out of this like just fucking insane political nosedive that the world has been in lately, where it's just like people who are, you know, countrymen who are constantly adversarial with each other and like battling each other over their political views. I think the thing that's going to bring us out of that is like, if you can fucking link arms with your neighbor, regardless of their political views, and just like work to better your little space around you.
Yeah. Like a total like Dabu Dore kind of, everyone gathers around in a circle in a Who-like fashion. And
we fucking scare off the Grinch.
Yes. And I think, and I've done the math. If we have, in North America, if we had no less than 10 Tom Hanks, we could turn this whole thing around, because that's the link in the chain. That's how many you need to get to the White House. If you have like a mayor all the way up, and then there's like, oh, they represent themselves so well, and everyone loves them. Everyone loves them.
It's true. Nobody hates Tom Hanks. So I did some research and I was wrong. Texas can't secede from the union. It's a common urban myth, but I looked it up on TechSplainer, and they started talking about it because they're talking about Brexit. They're like, what about Texas? And then it was like, no, Dale doesn't know what he's talking about.
The portmanteau is right there. Texas. So clever.
Right? That's such a good one.
Tragic waste.
Apparently at the end of the Civil War, the federal government went in and was like, yeah, you're not allowed to fucking make your own rules anymore, because they were their own country for 9 years before they joined the United States. So a lot of people were like, well, we were our own country. We could just leave and be our own country. But they can't legally. But I don't really, it's one of those things where it's like, well, they can't leave legally. And you're like, so they can leave illegally? Like, what are you going to do? They like secede from the union, make their own country, and then you sue them for money?
Yeah, that's weird, right? In their own country, sue them.
Yeah, it's like you sue them till they come back. Anyway, sorry to derail your Tom Hanks.
Thank you for explaining that, because that was
we all learned something new today. Yeah. I was like, holy shit. Are we gonna have to worry about Texas just fucking leaving the union next? Like, is that gonna be the next tragedy to befall us?
Just a complete rogue state, and they take Minnesota with them or something.
you think they left, how many people would just be like, well, I'm going to go to Texas? That country would be banging.
Yeah, and then tattoo artists would just be making so much money with cover-ups. All kinds of flags that are just gone.
Oh, all the people who have Texas tattoos on their body?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk? Dale, had they defunded the police when you recorded the last episode that I wasn't on? Is that something that we...
No, they were talking about defunding. Are you talking about Minneapolis police?
Yeah, so Minneapolis Police Department. We've seen a couple...
but have they actually defunded? I just saw that the city council was going to pass a no veto motion to defund the police. But I also saw that the police were planning on leaving the union and restructuring. So I don't exactly know what's going on right now.
I mean, however the fuck it plays out, what we are seeing in Minneapolis right now is like this groundswell of support for police reform. Whatever that does end up looking like. And so we've seen a lot of attention being paid by a lot of people to this idea of defunding the police. And I wanted to get your takes on it, specifically the guy who was on this podcast for one episode versus the guy who's on this podcast for
well, I talked about it a bit.
Episodes.
We talked about it a bit last episode because Dave was talking about it and compared up here, but Jayme wasn't here last episode, so let's get his. And it's the whole situation has also progressed more since.
Yeah.
Episode.
Well, thank you for that wonderful intro. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I would say that right off the bat, I think a fundamental issue regarding the mentality of defunding the police department, whether you're for it or against it, is a lot of people don't even understand what that means from a ground level, like what they're actually discussing. So just to be clear for those people that are listening, defunding the police does not mean shutting down the police and having no police like we just discussed in a Chaz type scenario over in Seattle.
Is Minneapolis going to be Chaz too?
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't seem that way, because what defunding the police really means is really, I think a more apt term would be like demilitarizing the police, because the amount of APCs and armored vests and spiked gloves and all kinds of crazy, post Afghanistan shit that they have, probably not necessary at all. And I can understand having a well armed or well defensive budget in terms of like that stuff, but none of that stuff is defensive. APCs that can absolutely be used to invade Canada. Like, I was watching that stuff and being like, if all those militaries, like, and that's what they are. If all those if all those police departments right now decided that, Winnipeg is like Canada's Boston, basically, let's take it from them. What would we do? We would have to have all of our armed forces, and then we'd still need our police officers who aren't even nearly as armored as well as they are.
The average municipal police department in the United States has a bigger budget and like more equipment than the entire Canadian military. Yeah. So if they all banded together, we're fucked.
My question is, would they stop after Winnipeg, or is it Winnipeg then keep going?
No, Winnipeg's the crown jewel, man. Why would you need anything else?
I mean, like, if they just
Boston.
take half of if they take half of Manitoba and they're like, that's all we wanted from you guys, I would be like,
no, they would get to the fucking like Flin Flon and it would be over. We would rush them out of our. Guess what? Canada starts here now. Way beyond the 49th. We could start
That's why, like, anyone invading Canada, we should just like make a funnel point into into Manitoba, and they'll get halfway through it and be like, what the fuck's the point? Like, why are we here? Why do we want this country? Look at this shit.
They're like,
get the fuck out of here.
Actually colder than Michigan up here. Yeah. Why are we here?
Oh my God. How are you guys the North and you're only like seriously 2 hours from the border? Like that's really, like, they don't even think about it, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One good thing, if the States invaded Canada, we would have instantly the rest of the world would be at peace with each other to stop the U.S.
I would see that would be interesting, because then do you call Russia and China saviors for swooping in to save Canada, because that would significantly.
That's who it
change
would have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Well,
the cultural
you
background.
would have to call China more protecting their own investment because their economy is so interlinked with at least BC and Alberta's, like with the oil and stuff. So it wouldn't be like a
I don't know.
savior. It would be like a landlord or something coming back to be like, yo, knock it off. That's I've got interests there.
Well, that's interesting, because I think maybe, just maybe, that you know, like it would be more along the lines of like instead of them being like our saviors or something like that, they'd be like, oh, we can be imperialists again. No one told me. And then you know, and then they start taking shit.
See you later, Ukraine.
Yeah,
they would be like
come in fourth. Yeah,
and it would be like, we've had
Tibet.
We've had this score to settle with Japan for centuries, and they would immediately take over Japan.
Oh, it would be so core right away. And then not only that, but then you'd also have like this is fucked up, but like if you think about like when Russia annexed the Crimea from the Ukraine, if Trump was in power when that happened, what I just joked about probably would have happened. He would have been like, "Oh, we can just take shit." Well, then
wait, we're
I
doing
didn't know that was an option.
Yeah. Get Mexico and have them build a wall. That's what he would fucking do, like something like that. He would just crazy shit. I don't know. What a fucking asshole. I hate that guy.
Yeah. I don't think, even like, I'm seeing a lot of Republicans turning on him. Like there's groups of like Republicans against Trump now too. So
well, he's just like, he's done a very few, you know what? I'm gonna stop that right there. I'm gonna get back to the police thing. You fucking tangent. What?
I don't want to talk about Trump.
No, we can talk about Trump, but like he's done a very like a bunch of like very non-conservative shit that like actual Republicans would look at and be like, well, that makes me uncomfortable. So I get that he is losing support, but like the people who still support Trump, I saw a tweet the other day and it was basically like Trump supporters at this point are basically like political flat earthers. They don't care what the truth is. They don't care what's objectively true. They care that they are right. And that's it. Like, and they will cling to that until they die, and no one's going to walk it back. So, I mean,
political flat earthers. That's
amazing.
It's a good metaphor though. Like, okay, so the police thing. So everyone's seeing these calls to defund the police, and everyone's losing their fucking mind because they're basically like, well, what would you do without police? You made the example of like, who are you going to call for violent crime? But like, so a lot of the shit the police deal with now, by the way, I totally agree with calls to defund the police. Mm-hmm. They receive, I don't know if it's as bad in Canada. I know in US cities, the budget for police officer or police departments is absolutely fucking insane. Like the LAPD budget was $1.73 billion with a B dollars. Wow. And like, so you look at the things police do right now, and it's like, it's because we set up this system where like everything, all these social problems, poverty, anything, those are now criminal problems. And we have to justify giving the police $1.73 billion a year. So we're going to make them be the front line of defense for all these things. But like, police don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to like people with mental health issues or people with drug, like they're not there. They're there to be reactive and not proactive. And you imagine if we started funneling $1.73 billion, a fucking fraction of $1.73 billion into like social programs and social housing and like, job creation programs and fucking harm reduction programs and safe injection sites and like mental health assistance, there would be a lot fewer crimes for police to have to respond to. But I think, as soon as Minnesota announced that they were defunding the police, I'm like, you know what we're going to see? Because there is an absolute fuck ton of money in the prison industrial complex. And we are going to see people sending a lot of like bad actors and stuff to Minneapolis to fuck shit up so they can be like, you see what happens when you don't give your police billions of dollars a year? Exactly. This happens.
Like, are we going to see privatized police forces down there that are like turn into like guns for hire, just like the prisons are all privatized. So it's like they kind of affected the police to set up just like an influx of prisoners so that these prisons can make money. Or it's like, what's going to happen if that comes around?
Amazon Force by Jeff Bezos. Just
Yeah.
fucking drones dropping fucking Amazon militants.
Yeah. Amazon Force versus Google SWAT.
Yeah. And it definitely feels like one step from Judge Dredd. Absolutely. But
yeah,
I want to say, because we just touched very quickly on something that is actually near and dear to my heart, which is, I don't know why, but I'm just like obsessed with like prison knowledge and culture. And I just have like a ton of weird trivia.
Hey, drop some knowledge on us. The viewers of this podcast could use some because they're
desperately,
yes.
Okay, well, I'll just say this. The privatized prison program is absolutely horrendous, and there should never be public stock shares sold for the value of human life ever. Like, regardless if it's a prison or slave camps or whatever the fuck it is, it should never be that. So that stop dead right there. But unfortunately, private prisons, while they are expanding and they are growing throughout America, still represent a minority compared to the state or federal run prisons in the United States. Their policies are still just as draconian, just as awful, and just as terrible. But sometimes this idea that like it should go back to federal or go back to state only, it's like that should only occur with the same type of mentality that the defund the police idea is happening. And by that, I mean that there should be more of a switch to reforming rather than punishment. Because right now, from the moment you commit a crime to the moment you're sitting in a cell, every step of the way is designed to keep you there and to not allow you to have any chance to reform. And even when you are there and you actually get out, you become a reprobate and you actually end up going back in. So there's no ability for them to actually fix that right now, because the cycle itself, it perpetuates itself. Because if you took out even just the court portion, which some states have done, and they've actually switched completely to something very similar to like what we have here in Vancouver and BC, where we have very independent drug courts that only deal with drug crimes and basically deal with people and their mental health and being able to take them into more of a wellness facility. That being placed into a system right now in the United States, in certain states that have enacted that, they've actually received so much pushback and lobbying from the other parts of the wheel that like it becomes a losing effort in the back end. So it's hard to see what to do and what to, but it all plays into the same shit that we're talking about here. Because if there are privatized militaries and there are going to be like, state sponsored or Google, task force or whatever you just said, like if there is going to be that, we have to be able to have an answer for that, either in a physical confrontation in a military type way, or in a way that's going to hopefully stop it before it happens. And that's what it's trending to, and that's what's terrifying, I think, to most people that might be even watching this right now.
Yeah. So I work for a company that makes software for like lawyers and law firms, but like through my work there, I've been lucky enough to be exposed to a lot of these like charities and initiatives that are actually working on like some really interesting shit. Like there's this restorative justice center in Oakland, I want to say. And it was basically like this building that was fucking built to essentially almost replace a jail. Like what they would do is they would take like all these things from different cultures, like healing circles, and fucking when crimes were committed, they would get all these people into a room, like victims, families, perpetrators together to like talk through shit, and deal with things almost like our ancestors like thousands and thousands of years did before this prison industrial complex existed. And they found it was like crazy effective. Like it reduced reoffending, it limited violent crime. Like there are a lot of fucking amazing things taking place out there right now, by people who have to like fight and claw for every inch of funding they get. Because at some point we decided that justice was going to be a capitalist enterprise, and we were going to use the enforcement of laws and justice as a way to make money. By like churning as many people through the system as possible. Yeah. And like, yeah, no fucking wonder you have like violent crime, like the situation it is in the States. And no wonder people are pissed off to this point. Like, the thing that I think is the absolute grossest thing about the justice system in the United States is the bail system. Like, it's absolutely fucking insane to me that they're essentially preying on poor people because you know, you criminalize everything, you arrest someone, you charge them with something, and before they are even convicted of a crime, they have to come up with like thousands and thousands of dollars just to get a taste of freedom again before they have a trial or a court case. Yeah. And it's fucking mental that like anybody allows that to happen and is like, well, this seems like a reasonable thing for us to do.
Well,
like,
if they weren't poor, dear, they wouldn't be making trouble and crime.
You know, you do raise an excellent point, Jayme. Like,
fuck's sakes. I mean, geez.
I just wanted to jump in there. Like, maybe the states could do something like Canada has. Like, you were talking about the Restorative Justice Center. Like, Canada, like in the States, they're saying one of the big problems is African Americans are overrepresented in the jail system, where it seems like they might not be committing more crime or whatever, but the populations in jail are 60% Black when they're only make up like 10% of the population. And we have the same problem up here in Canada with the Indigenous population, and they're overrepresented in the jail. So our federal government started this thing where they're like, we got to address the situation. And actually what my girlfriend does is there are these things called glad do reports. And when an Indigenous person gets charged with something, they have this option of having like a report done. So it'll go through their family history, maybe see if there's like generational trauma or if something's coming, like what kind of upbringing they had. And then to address maybe the recidivism rate, they can have the person who's writing the report will suggest different sorts of treatments, like whether it's counseling or kind of like the sobriety thing or all this stuff. And then the judge can complement whatever sentencing they're going to give to this person with all these different sorts of treatments. So if they did something like that in the States with this Restorative Justice Center, and they had more of those, because that's a really good idea. Because like what you said, where they would get the victims and the families in, one thing that the Indigenous population in Canada used to do was they would get like the tribal council, and
that's where they got it from. It was like it's like an Indigenous healing circle or something is when it was explained to me. That's what they were saying. Yeah,
because Andrew was explaining this to me. It was something like, I think you can even still ask for that in some cases in Canada, where it's like the tribal council will sit down with the person who committed the crime and the family, and they'll talk it over, and then they'll get the family suggestion of what they think the punishment should be for the person. Of course, they're still going to do all the legal stuff, but they might take that into consideration. So it's like, this is all like what Jayme was saying before about the defunding doesn't mean get rid of it. It kind of means reform it. So like, I had a big problem with them saying defund it, like just take all the money out of the police and then whatever. But I'm totally down with reforming. I think one of the things the state should do also is, instead of having like the 8-week training courses they have to become a police officer, it should be very like a lot more selective. And then they should have a whole bunch of different sort of treatment options for these police officers, because a lot of them are just getting massive PTSD from dealing with because it's like, the police officers are the first call. So it's like, if there's a traffic accident, the police officers have to go there. And if you've only been trained for 8 weeks on like how to deal with criminals, you don't have any sort of like trauma treatment or what to do when you see a dead body and all this stuff. And it's like, they see all this horrific stuff, and then they might just get PTSD and go untreated. And then it kind of bleeds into their aggressiveness and their job and stuff. So I think another thing they should do is just have mandatory like psychological evaluations at certain points, like maybe after any traumatic situation, or maybe in every couple months or even a year.
Yeah, I think like I think that'd be a good idea. I think if from what I understand, from what I'm reading, and from what I've been speaking with
Mhm.
people, I think the other part of the defunding aspect is because it's going into these other areas that we've already discussed.
Yeah.
If in fact those people were then responsible for responding to those types of calls and things like that. So if there was like a social worker that responded to a social worker call, like a 911 operator is already they're already splitting calls between multiple different departments and facilities depending on location and area and type of crime or event taking place. So it stands to reason that there could be multiple different people patched into that network, like social workers or psychologists, therapists, people like right away. Like if you know that there's someone there that like they have to, like instead of a police officer being sent to a traffic accident like you just mentioned, and it's like, yes, they might have to do some traffic control or something like that, but when it comes to like holding someone's hand while they're about to die in a vehicle, it's like that's an incredibly powerful experience for someone to go through. And then you have to get back in and then hear your partner talk about, oh, I guess we're going to Tim Hortons this week or something. It's like there's a huge shift in mentality of what takes place for stuff like that. I used to work for an ambulance, and I just did back end administrative stuff. And one of the first things I learned was like, anytime that there's any serious tragedy like that for a paramedic, anytime they need time off, they get it whenever they want, at the drop of a hat, whenever they want. And that's like, that's very important. And that's really cool. I think that's cool. But like, I don't think police officers have that. I might be wrong about that, but I don't think they have that. I'm not trying to sympathize with people that are on the street beating protesters. Those guys are assholes. What I'm talking about in a system in general, like there could be better people in better positions to do these jobs. I don't think you have to be a cop in order to stop, like a foster family dispute or something like that. I think that there could be other people involved that could do that.
Yeah, there's with $1.2 billion, you can fund social programs that'll like aim for the prevention, and then you can fund like actual. Oh, we got another special guest. Who's that?
This is my new kitty, Luna.
Cute. What up, Luna?
Say hi.
Hey, Luna.
Say hi.
You're famous. You shy? Hi, Luna. What's
Hi.
your take?
She's the most gentle kitty I've ever met. All
She's like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm out.
She just kisses, and she can't stand that I'm not hanging out with her right now. So we've only had them like a couple months. So
Cute.
yeah, sorry to cut in with something cute.
That derailed. On to the next topic. Hey,
go ahead.
Dale, you want to get into this JK? Can someone explain this to me? Because a
I'll
lot of
explain it.
people are mad at JK Rowling right now.
I'll explain exactly what happened.
Do not understand why.
Okay, so
Please go ahead.
somebody was saying, I can't remember exactly what they were talking about, but it went to the effect of something people with who experience menstruation. And then J.K. Rowling was like, I think there's a word for that. And then she would like typed like woman and all this stuff. So and then basically people called her out. They're like, wait, are you saying that transgender women aren't actually women? And then she doubled down, and then she basically outed herself as a transgender phobe. And then Daniel Radcliffe stepped in, and he's like, look, if you enjoy the material, there's nothing wrong with separating yourself from the feelings of the author. I understand that there's all this stuff that people feel, and to help them through a lot of like developmental stages in their lives and all this stuff. And then he goes on to explain why J.K. Rowling was wrong to kind of dismiss a person who menstruates as just a woman. And then a whole bunch of people called out Daniel Radcliffe for mansplaining transgenderness to J.K. Rowling. So,
as the internet does.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. Like, I feel like if you read the beginning of Daniel Radcliffe's statement, you'd see like he very much approached it from a like, I in no way support what J.K. Rowling is saying. However, I personally feel like my relationship with her has been good, but that this is a teachable moment, and let's explore why this is, because like the thing about TERFs, as they're called.
Can you give us the breakdown on that? Trans exclusionary.
Radical feminist.
Trans exclusionary radical feminist. Yes. So the thing about that is like, it's so weird on paper. I was talking about this with some people today, and I pinged some people about like what they felt about this, and it's very interesting the responses that come back. A lot of people, the first response, like the knee-jerk response, is like, I don't care either way. I just don't want people to tell me what to think. That's the real, like.
I mean, and that's a very like baseline response to anything, right?
So, and that, I also think that that's also like the baseline of like, it's the next door is like ignorance, right? Because you're like, I don't care. I don't want anyone to tell me.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's fine. But then like the next step to that, I'd very much say is like, as the TERF position in that women fought very hard to be women, to win the right to vote, to have the right to like have sex with whom they like, to have the right over their own bodies in terms of reproductive, in some states, but in some parts of the world. And even that in the statement of itself should say a lot, that there's still like a lot to be done in that part of it. But seeing as how the three of us are very qualified to be talking about women, I'll just keep this going. I'll say the next.
We're white men. What aren't we qualified to talk about, man?
Yeah, I got a nice like gray tone to me.
Yeah.
Like, so the fact that like that exists, okay, if we could just hold that as its own thing, right or wrong, whatever you think about it, that's a thing. And a lot of people belong to that idea and that philosophy. The other portion of that is very concerning is that because they're exclusionary to trans people, they've actually created this other lane, this whole pocket of people where it's like, okay, now you have people that are like, we're oppressed over here, now oppressing others. And you feel like it's a funnel. It should be like people oppressing either become unoppressed, and then they're able to recognize that in others. And help them up, right? Not become part of an oppressive class and therefore make it harder for people to be involved in life. So I have issues with the fact that J.K. Rowling is not being very understanding, but her point of view as well is like, very different. Like we're talking about a woman that used to live in her car, and now she's a multi wealthy millionaire, like huge amounts of wealth. And then you have this period of life that she was abused as a woman, and her feelings are very much galvanized in what she thinks a woman is. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's where those ideas are coming from.
She did bring up, sorry, I just wanted to say this.
Sorry, go ahead.
She did bring up one interesting point that I can't even begin to parse, which was, she was saying that, like you brought up, that she was, Anyway, she was like, I don't know why I just forgot that word.
That's never happened before in the history of this podcast.
But anyways, like she was saying she was abused, and that from her point of view, like if she were to go to a woman abuse shelter and someone who came in with the body, like basically a transgender woman, someone who was male, who identifies as a woman now, came in with that male body to this shelter, it might cause trauma to the women who were abused by men. And I have no way on how to approach that and what to say. I just wanted to say that is an interesting point that we're going to have to think about.
Well, I think that's her whole take, right? Because of the abuse that she encountered. Like, I think she views trans women as men still. And I don't think J.K. Rowling, as much as I am personally invested in her growth as a human being, I don't know that she is ever going to be able to overcome that. But I think, like, Jayme, you did a pretty good job of breaking it down and being like, this is where she's coming from. Like, no, it doesn't make it okay, but maybe when we like look at it through that lens and be like, yo, like, this is, maybe we can just like stop the fucking dog pile and like,
absolutely. because like, does it make any sense? So on the other, like you're saying, so like further down the line, now you have Daniel Radcliffe stepping up in defense of both points, much like we all just kind of did. And then now to be completely just destroyed on Twitter over this. And now think of what Daniel's thinking. He must be like, first of all, I'm fucking Harry Potter. I'm a good guy. And
I'm fucking Harry Potter.
Yeah, and then
that was a great like, Radcliffe.
Yeah, right. I've been working on it for a while. And then he's like, not only am I a good guy, but I try to stick up for someone. And I just fucking now I can't go anywhere. Not that I could because everything's quarantined. Well, fuck the world. And
I've never fucking
right.
And that's how he gets radicalized, man. Like that's
right. And now you have a guy who's like, well, fuck it, maybe I am a turf, or fuck it, maybe fuck J.K. Rowling forever, and then like he leaves that, or even worse, like he doesn't say anything to anyone, and he just internalizes it and uses his own massive fortune to fund things that are anti whatever free speech or whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like none of this works. Yeah, none of this works out in our favor as humanity when we all just like destroy someone. It's like I have to say, I think it's very like this is a hard take. This is a very fucking wild take. I know, but Donald Trump's a bit of a jerk, right? So I think like a guy.
I don't know about that, man.
Come on. I know I talk wild these days, but this beard's got me going. But anyway,
careful with that. All
right. But like he is someone who fucking deserves that. He deserves every little bit of fucking hate that's going his way. He's not doing the right thing as a human or any fucking anything you can imagine. He's not doing it right. He's making all the wrong moves. That's the thing.
It's not even that he's like fucking up. It's objectively he is a bad person. Like he's not contributing anything good to anyone's lives.
Yeah, he contributed nothing to your entire bloodline is fucked. How about that? Just like let that know. So like I look at people like that and I'm like, they deserve that. Then I look over at someone who's just merely trying to explain the situation and be calm and rational. And what happens? So what I'm saying is we need Tom Hanks to come in. J.K.
I'm
Rowling.
okay to get back on this Tom Hanks thing.
Yeah.
Down with that.
This is now the Hanks cast where we will be exploring the assorted works of Tom Hanks.
I didn't tell you guys this, but I have shares in Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, the human being. I didn't know you could invest in that. Yeah, I'd like to buy some. You must have been freaked when he caught COVID there then, hey? Like you were like, oh, my investment.
I was like, oh my God. It's only the second quarter.
My Hank stonks. I just wanted to throw something in. Derek, I was just about to give you props.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because on our previous episode, we were talking about this whole subject about transgender people, and you said you have to look at it like it's two different things. Like sex is one thing and gender is another. And a lot of people are getting hung up on saying that the biological sex of someone is who they should be when that's detached from who they are, who they identify as gender-wise. And for that actually completely helped me wrap my own brain around it. So I think if you're having trouble wrapping your, like if you're J.K. Rowling's and you're like, I don't get how this is like only one sex can menstruate. It's like, yeah, only one sex can menstruate, but both genders can menstruate. Like if you look at it like that, it kind of detaches all your scientific biological hangups on it.
Yeah. I don't know how many people who oppose it are doing so because they're scientifically or biologically hung up versus they're just like fucking closed-minded and they don't want to, like you have like, and those are the people who, when it comes up, will like, just like intentionally ignore somebody else's identity or wishes or pronouns and call them what they want to call them just to be fucking abrasive and shitty for no reason. So I don't know where I was going with that. I just wanted to make the people who do that feel bad, and they should feel bad for that. So
they're getting lost halfway is my shtick.
It is.
That's my role on the podcast is to start talking and then just fucking run out of road.
Do you have any, Jayme, did you come armed with any internet outrage you wanted to discuss or topics? We're coming up to the end of our time together here, so
I think I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think I did enough of that throughout the show, but I don't think I have time to see anything else.
Well, we could talk about.
No, we can't.
I was going to say we could talk about less stuff, but we started talking about Paw Patrol at the beginning, but that just kind of leads back into the defund the police thing. Do you want to kind of hit on that?
Sure, Paw Patrol is a fucking awful cartoon with dumb talking dogs that sucks ass and has an obnoxious theme song. People are saying they want to cancel it because one of the characters is a police officer. And again, I do not fucking care why you cancel it. Cancel it. Just take the show off the air.
How about A&E canceling Live PD and boom,
Okay.
bad boys, what you want?
And Cops got canceled too.
Yeah,
I'm down with that because those shows were fucking gross, man. Like I watched Live PD exactly once, like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't a good person 3 or 4 years ago. Like I was generally shitty. Maybe it was 5 years ago. It was before I sobered up. But I watched one episode of that and I was just like, this show is fucking gross. Like this show is like turns like poverty and social issues and like all this shit into like entertainment. And I never really picked up on that with Cops, but I guess they kind of did the same thing.
Yeah, Cops was more just action, like this is what's happening because it ran for 32 years. But it's like if you want to know what exploitation is, just watch Live PD because you're like because it's just exploiting these criminals and these bad situations and then making a bunch of money off it and putting them on TV.
Absolutely. Because like if anyone knows even the most minuscule amount of video production, if you just know that like, okay, these are episodes of like you have people being arrested that may or may not have actually done the crime that are now being packaged and processed into like 8-minute segments that are then surrounded by 15 to 30 second ads, right? And it's like, it's just being whittled down into like this product to sell you. And if you can't understand that, like that is what's happening. And then the real, like really let that sink in. They may or may not have actually commit the crime. So like blur it out or not, some of those states, they don't allow you to blur it out. So you just get like a rent, like here's Johnny John. He's fucking, domestic abuse that he didn't actually do or something, So that's like really bad. And like people are selling advertising and getting all kinds of money from that. But I'll tell you what, that was a really good move that they did to cancel it. I think it's awesome. And I think it's awesome that Cops is finally off the air because I think that's fucking dumb. I won't lie. I used to really like the Canadian fucking You Are Under Arrest, I think it was called. It was just 80s footage
aptly
of cops.
named.
Yeah, it was just cops with like wooden batons that they carved at home from a single piece of wood or something.
Wait, was this a real show?
Oh yeah, and you could watch it on Netflix in Canada right now. So I'm not saying I don't enjoy this kind of thing. Somehow because it's like 30 years ago, it doesn't seem so bad. But like but it's crazy to watch. Like I watch and I'm just like, that's illegal. That cop is doing an illegal thing.
Yeah.
Like that's illegal. Anyway, that was a good move for them to take the stuff off. But one of the best moves I ever made in regards to all this was investing in Derek Bolin as a stock about 5 years ago. Because he has just
he really turned it around.
Baby.
Yeah. And the best part is it hasn't gone to his head at all.
No,
just as humble as he's ever been.
I was just as proud of myself when I was a shitty person, but now I actually have reason to be. So
I mean, that's true. Your confidence hasn't changed. That's been a steady through line of each formation of your life.
We had one more, Casey Gould. I don't know who that is. Probably friend of Jamie's. Looks like a good guy.
Casey Gould's a good guy. Absolutely.
Nice.
He said NASCAR Confederate flag, which I want to say the balls on fucking NASCAR to take a stand and alienate like 75% of your fan base.
So impressive.
I did not think NASCAR was going to win 2020 at all. I did not see them being the ones to do it, but like, holy fuck.
Yeah. I'd say like, first of all, Casey, great suggestion. Next thing I'd say is, I don't know the account offhand, so this is a regurgitated take, so apologies for that. But I will say that the best take I saw though was the guy. There was a guy who quit over in Outrage. He was a NASCAR driver. He quit out of I forget his name, but that'll play into this in a second. The he quit with like, if y'all are going to do that, then I ain't going to have anything to do with y'all, something like that, and whatever, just broken Twitter English. And all of a sudden, the responses were great. The best one I read said, I had to look you up, and I Googled you, and you were 0-29 in your entire NASCAR life. And, I got to say, it's pretty disappointing to hear you're going to be leaving. But as you have always done, and as you will be remembered, you've never been very good at anything race related.
Ooh, snap! I think another thing too is the American military actually banned the Confederate flag from being like having logos, or like the soldiers having logos or anything on their gear, or the Confederate flag being in the military at all.
I'm kind of amazed that was still allowed.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. I was like, wait, why would you have the Confederate flag if you're in the military?
It was a weird part of once the Civil War ended, there was a large amount of effort and concerted time that was put into making sure that there could be like a reunification between the South and the North.
Yeah, like the 13 states that were in the Confederate Union or whatever.
Right.
So there is a problem with this though that I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but I actually found out because I was like, let's just go look at the Confederate flag because I wanted to see like why it's such a big deal. And it was only an actual flag for 4 years because it was only part of the Army for 4 years, and after that it was just like, hey, we want to remember this. But if you've seen the Mississippi flag for the state of Mississippi, it has a Confederate flag in it. So the problem is, if you say no Confederate flags in NASCAR, what are drivers from Mississippi supposed to do? And
that's interesting.
This is a very good point. And then Mississippi was like, yeah, we're going to fucking maybe take a poll to change this thing or whatever. But it's like, yeah, they kind of like soft shoot it because it was like, everybody's like, wait, if you're banning this flag, what are you going to do with this state?
I'd have to think, just because I know we're tight for time here, so I don't want to keep us. But I would have to.
Oh, we got tons of time.
I would have to think that it would be like I'm no expert at hippity hop and stuff like that, but I would say it'd be considered like sampling, right? So now it's like its own thing, as long as you have license permission. Yeah. So I don't know who owns the Confederate flag. Does anyone actually own it? But you just get like a little bit of licensing for it.
Oh, we lost Derek.
We lost Derek. That's how bad. That's how bad my jokes were just now.
If we lost Derek, how is this meeting still going on? Because
I know it says we're still recording live on Facebook. Oh, there he is.
He's back.
Oh, what up?
What happened, Derek?
I thought you just hated the jokes.
My internet. I missed that last segment because my internet connection shit the bed.
Did you hear the part about the Mississippi flag?
Good to be back. I did. Yeah, that was
okay. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Jayme was saying it's like sampling.
It'll be like sampling in Mississippi because then like it'll be its own thing, right? It'll be like a third party thing. Like they'll have to license it. I don't know who owns the Confederate flag, but like you'd have to pay them royalties or something.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people say the Confederate flag, they're like, it doesn't mean the racism thing. It doesn't mean they fought for slavery or whatever. It's like they see it as a unification of the South. So they're like home to their roots. And you know what I say? I say, fuck you. Just don't have that flag anymore. There's too many people where it's trauma inducing. I hate to use the word, but it's actually triggering to just see that because they think of when they were bought and sold like property instead of being human beings. So just
do it. Find another piece of history. Hey,
I mean, build something else with 13 stars on it.
One last thing before we wrap up. I just want to say I'm personally a big fan of statue toppling of any statue. I don't even care if they're Confederate statues. Just topple them all. Fuck statues.
Dude, getting rid of all those fucking honky statues, I'm like, yes, get rid of all these dumb pieces of shit. Because the thing about those statues is they weren't built after the Civil War, and they haven't been there for hundreds of years. What happened was during the Civil Rights movement, a bunch of fucking redneck racists were like, we're going to build these statues so people know where we came from. So some of those statues were built in the 60s while African Americans were fighting for their rights to be considered humans. All these shithead racists were like, oh, fuck, let's let's like make General E. Lee a hero and stuff. And it's like, just get rid of all of them. Like,
not even the racist ones. Fuck statues. Get rid of them all. Fuck it. They creep me out. They should not be like weird bronze people everywhere you go. They're fucking like.
Yeah, have they never seen Doctor Who? Like, this is
exactly. You
one
get
of the worst things that can happen.
Yeah. Oh, those angel statues. What were those called?
The weeping angels.
The weeping angels, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Hey,
like we're all pretending like we're not nerds. That's awesome. Okay, so
yeah.
I don't know what those Doctor Who things are called.
Thanks so much for fucking joining us, man. You
are great.
You are as fantastic on this side of the mic as you were on the other side of the mic. And I do hope you make a return to podcasting, because like that was one of my funnest podcast experiences, I think, was coming on your show a couple times. So
thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me, guys. And Dale, you're awesome, man. Derek, you're awesome.
Oh, thanks.
I appreciate being given a platform just to chat and stuff. It's been a while since I've been able to do the podcast.
You brought it with the prison knowledge. So we're the ones that should appreciate you.
It was nice having someone who knew what the fuck they were talking about for once.
Yeah.
Let's not get carried away, Derek. We still have our charm.
all those 5 a.m. prison documentary nights paid off, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Finally. If people are looking for you on the internet or would like to like look at your shit or learn more about you, where can they do that?
I'll say it now, and then you guys could throw it in the, I don't know, comments or whatever the fuck, or I don't know how you do this, but I would say follow me online at MD, just as like my name says here on my little thing here. And if you want to check out my new music, the stuff I'm doing, it's this instrumental, relaxed, super chill vibe stuff I'm doing. It's called Chatterless, and it's like lo-fi chill wave stuff.
Is that on Bandcamp? Here, I'm asking you so I can post it right now.
It's actually on Spotify and Tidal. And,
those are real music sites. Bandcamp. Fuck out of here.
But Bandcamp's good. That's good too. But I actually have a new album coming out on June 26th, which is 2 weeks from today. And
nice.
This is the announcement of that. I haven't said anything online about it or anything. So
shit, you're here to hear first.
Yeah. And the album's called And the album's called Insecurities Melt. So if you guys want to check it out, go to Chatterless Music, and that's what it is all across the land. I'll be launching a YouTube channel the exact same day. So
nice.
Yay, maybe we'll do some stuff on that. And I don't know. I'm just so thankful to have a chance to talk with you guys. I'm pretty stoked to hang out again.
Yeah,
that was great, awesome. I just want to say it's not as important as Jamie's, but
I don't care what you have to.
I did.
This is your podcast. I don't.
I made a Redbubble site. If you don't know, that's basically I put the Outrage Factory logo.
Yeah, you're showing the merch.
And you can go get any types of merch.
A shower curtain.
I mean, we don't get
pillows.
Yeah. So what it is you go on, you pick what you want, and they
know what Redbubble is. Dan.
And they give us like a couple bucks. But I put it there.
Very popular website.
So that it would be easier for you guys to get swag. It's right now I only have the Outrage Factory Tiger logo in there because it's the best one. But I might add more later if I draw more. So
I'll pitch you guys a few ideas for shirt ideas and sayings ideas that I've caught even today on this show.
On this post? All right. Catchphrases.
Is it just your face was once a guest on Outrage Factory? So we can further.
Bestseller.
So we can ride for all our guests.
Yeah, ride your coattails for our swag too.
Bestseller. There you go.
Hey everyone, I've been your co-host. My name is Derek Bolin. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Herder.
I've been your other co-host, Dale DeRuiter. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at SuperDaleBot.
You can follow us on the Twitter, where it's actually just Dale tweeting from our brand account at Outrage Fact Pod. You can also find us on Facebook.com/Outrage Fact Pod, assuming that fuckface Mark Zuckerberg doesn't shut us down.
We did have a lot of trouble launching this stream because Derek, as we were going in, called Mr. Zuckerberg a disparaging name, which I don't agree with. I think
it was also fuckface.
Mark Zuckerberg might be the next leader of the free world.
Still fuckface.
I don't even want to put that out there.
If you like the podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get those. If you really like us, head on over to our Patreon and toss us some cash. And finally, until next week.